Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera Dent, and I just wanted to say thank you so much for being part of my Dental A Team family. I seriously love doing this podcast. I thought I was going to hate it, and I love it. I love it so much because I get to connect with you. I get to hear how this podcast is helping you and your practice be better. So if you have loved this podcast and you are willing to share, I would greatly appreciate if you'll share with your friends, if you'll leave us a review, if you'll give us 5 stars, anything you can do. Just like you guys grow your practices, we're trying to grow this podcast to positively impact the world of dental. This is how we get to grow our Dental A Team family. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the show. Hey everyone, welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. We're your hosts, Kiera Dent
and Dr. Marc Costas.
Marc and I had this crazy idea that maybe we could combine a dentist and a team member's perspective because let's face it, dentistry can be a challenging profession with those two perspectives. And Dental A Team podcast was created.
I'm a practicing dentist, a multiple practice owner, a dental performance coach, and the founder of the Dental Success Institute.
I've been a dental assistant, treatment coordinator, scheduler, biller, office manager, current practice owner, and international dental consultant. Marc and I don't just understand you, we are you.
Our goal is to positively impact the world of dentistry by sharing our lessons learned from the road in hundreds of dental offices.
2 perspectives, 1 mission, to help dental professionals reach their full potential. Welcome to the Dental A Team podcast. Hello, Dental A Team listeners. This is Kiera, and you guys, okay, I've been saving this podcast for you because this has got to be one of the most special episodes I can ever give you. The guest is already laughing before I've even introed him.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is a ridiculous intro.
It's a perfect intro.
One of the best ever. But yeah, you're probably right.
So I am so excited. You guys already just heard him. Justin Schmidt. Let me tell you a little bit about Dr. Justin Schmidt. So Schmidt, he and I met when I was taking a maxi implant course with a doctor that I was working with in Colorado. So I met Justin. I was an office manager at the time. He was taking the implant course. So I saw him every single month for about 8 months. We became really good friends through the course, and he is actually the reason that I'm in consulting. So this whole world, the reason this podcast exists comes because of Justin. Because what happened was I left Colorado, called Justin up and said, hey, can I come just practice on your office? I had never consulted before in my life. And lo and behold, here we are. So Justin is one of the most incredible doctors. He's just...
Wait. What was your first... I think for your first consulting fee, I bought you like a gift card to get new shoes or something.
This is a true story. This is a very true story. Justin, when I went up, I literally... pretty much begged him and said like, hey, you don't even have to pay me. Just let me come to your practice and practice on you to see if I even know what I'm doing because I've never been a consultant in my life. So Justin was nice enough. He saw that, yes, he needed help in his practice, but he also saw that I just needed an outlet. So I am super excited to bring Justin onto the show for you guys to hear Justin because I really do, and not in a sappy way. But honestly, the reason that my life is this way is because of Justin. He introduced me to Marc Costas. He is the reason that I have a consulting company because Justin, he's that, you know, when they say that you have lightning strike in your life and it's one of those moments that just changes you. The day Justin had me come into his practice literally pivoted me into a different place. So Justin, even though you've already been here, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's talk about this a little bit because and honestly, Justin's one of the best doctors, one of the best business owners I've ever met. He does a fantastic job, but we'll kind of get into that. So what's your take? That's my side of this story, but you know, what's your side to how this whole thing shook out?
Yeah, no, that all sounds pretty accurate. Yeah, I was a part of the Dental Success Institute. Well, still am. And then I loved what Marc was teaching and my problem was implementation, right? I think you and I talk about this a lot. I'm a pushover and I'm a baby. And so I really needed someone to come in to kind of help me out. So I don't know, was that kind of the progression of like, hey, yeah, I'd love to have you come because then you can tell my staff what to do on the things I've been wanting to change. And a lot of your stuff and Marc's stuff, I think, really lined up really serendipitously, actually, of the stuff I wanted to implement, and then also the things that you wanted to try in the office. And I'm not sure why I said, okay, everyone, whatever she says, do it. But that was pretty much it, right? I was just like, all right, well, we'll try this out. I don't care. Sure. And then you just kind of freewheeled after that too. And man, yeah. I don't know if it was lightning striking, but something happened. So
for me, it was a lightning strike, like that moment of impact where my whole life changed. But
you nailed it, and you jammed, and my staff was very scared of you, which was super awesome. And yeah, you, I don't know, you came in, you commanded everyone, but you still commanded their respect too, which was very nice. I could see you nervous, and I was nervous for you. But at the same time, I was like, yeah, she'll be fine. It's fine.
It was one of those moments because when Justin had me come to his practice, we had talked before I even went in there. So I kind of knew what he was looking for.
We knew exactly. We had a game plan ahead of time.
Totally. But it was really fun because one, this was a client that I cared about a ton. I mean, Justin's one of my best friends. So I wanted his practice to do well. And I knew I was in a safe space where I could literally Petri dish experiment on whatever I want to try out and just see if it worked. And you were gracious enough to be super accountable. I mean, I was a way better coach when I started with you than I am now, meaning I texted you, I think, every single day to get you to do a morning huddle. So that was a little bit more hands-on than I currently am.
No, that was meeting number 2. That wasn't meeting number 1, I don't think. But, I don't know. I can't remember. Anyway.
But now Justin.
But you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so now Justin has that whole story of we met, I went into his practice. His team did a really fantastic job. He did a great job as a leader. And now his practice has grown. He just built a new, beautiful building. So in 3 years, it's kind of serendipity right now because it's October and Justin and I had my first in-office with him in October 3 years ago. So a really fun time for us. But I think it's interesting because Justin, your journey went from here's your practice, you're struggling with implementation, we got you to implement, and then your business was able to grow, blossom to where you actually outgrew your building to where you had to find another building. You're in a teeny tiny, adorable town.
Did we have 3 ops when I started with you? Or I can't remember if I had my 4th one out yet. Okay, yeah.
And
3 ops. And
3 ops.
6 ops and 2 more on the way, so... It's fun. Incredible
expansion. And you would have expanded sooner, but you're in this tiny town, couldn't find a building, and it just waited till the right timing happened.
Jeez. Yeah, I had been looking for about a year and a half maybe for just, even if I had $5 million, there just wasn't anything available to purchase that they would have allowed me to practice dentistry out of. So I even thought of getting a couple of RVs and getting up a mobile shop.
Justin
Not
literally
like a taco truck, but a dentistry truck. Yeah.
But I even love from when I first met you, his office was literally this little hallway. I mean, we're talking a teeny tiny closet. And then you built a tiny house outside of your office for your office because you had to expand
for my personal
out.
office. Yeah.
So exactly. It just kind of, he really grew and expanded. But that's not the point I wanted to bring Justin onto the show because although Justin is a fantastic dentist and we can talk about and geek out on his numbers and how he grew and now he has an associate and he's in a teeny tiny town where there's massive competition.
No one to hire, which is the worst thing ever. Anyway, go on.
So he can't, he's got to love on his team because you can't just fire them because there's nobody else to hire.
Rehab only. I can't just fire everyone. I get the rehab here, which is too bad.
It's all fine. But what you do, Justin, something that, any person who meets you just loves you because you have this zen to you. And one thing I admire in you that I think would be so good for team members, for doctors, everyone who listens to the show is you do a fantastic job with boundaries.
Right.
And so I wanted to dive into that of how do you hold boundaries, especially with your team, and kind of diving into that because I think because you do boundaries so well, you do have that zen in your life. And I've watched you and you're so meticulous with your personal time, with making sure you as a person are whole and it reflects in everything you do. So if you're open to that, I would love to dive into that because
that's something I'm actually one of my most. Well, that's probably the main thing within the business that I'm proud of, out of all the growth and the fun stuff that I've been lucky enough to do, protection of my personal time, my personal space, and personal everything is, that's like priority numero uno. And I would say that stems from having a crazy father, I would say, for the most part. So he was a workaholic growing up. He's a physician, and he was a psychiatrist. Well, I mean, still is. And he had no personal boundaries at all. I can remember him even as a child, he would give his patients his cell phone number. And, as a psychiatrist, that's a terrible idea. Me, I still give mine out to patients and stuff. But psychiatrist, that is like rule number one. You do not do that. And he would have people call him a time. He'd do Sunday evening, like, oh, I'll do a phone session, sure. And he'd show up. Well, he was never on time for anything. That's where I get some of my time management problems, probably. But he would never show up to anything on time because he's always on the phone because another patient always called him and always talking to someone. And so growing up, I saw someone who worked probably 70 hours a week actually in this clinic, but then on the weekends he'd come home and he'd still work. And whether that's his own, that's all of his own demons, his own upbringing, all that stuff as well. But that is where I think I learned that is the exact person I do not want to be. And so, when I was even choosing a profession, because I took the very long route through school. Took me a long time to decide what I wanted to do. And, I quit college in the middle of it too. And then
totally.
for 2 years,
would you recommend that, right? Like just stop?
I would still, honestly. But I just Colorado and skied for 2 years. So that was, it was a fun one. My parents were like, all right, that's enough.
Your poor dad was probably just like stressing so much. What has happened?
I don't know.
He failed out of school.
I'm sure I'm making him take anti-anxiety medication at some point when I was in college because I was all over the place. And then I was like, came back, like, all right, fine. I'm just gonna choose a degree. So I just chose psychology, and because I mapped out what was the fastest way I could get out of here with a degree, and any degree. And so I chose that. And then I don't know. So anyway, I did not have a clear path, a defined path. And so once I found when I was really choosing dentistry, I was really finding, okay, what should I be doing? Time and availability that was priority number one, actually, I would say. So what I mean by that is, like, I want to have a job that I'm able to schedule my life. And I can actually take extra time. And granted, I learned now in practice it's not quite as easy as I thought it would be because you have these obligations to patients and to staff and all this stuff. But
I would say of all the professions out there that is a doctor status and different pieces, and also even for team members looking for careers, dentistry is one of the most liberating and free. Like, you really can set a dreamy schedule if you want. I think there's a lot of flexibility with it, even with that said.
Oh, yeah. Even 4 days a week, was super awesome. It's fine. We've mixed up schedules a few times. Now my schedule with my associate and I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And then I just alternate. So I have a 2-day and then a 6-day weekend, which is ridiculous. Like, I never thought I would be able to have something like that. That's amazing. And actually like make enough money to live and to thrive, really. I'm super lucky on that. But that took years to craft, right? And but dentistry is the one. I don't know. I can't think of any other job where you're able to do that sort of thing. Like,
I would totally agree. It's
ridiculous.
It's amazing, is what I think. I'm obsessed with dentistry because I think it affords us the opportunity to give back to our communities, to serve patients, to be fulfilled, but also live these incredible lives. So your dad was had that, and we've talked about this before, and I don't know that your dad's this way, but so often I see doctors and I see team members and myself even, where we live these crazy, hectic, busy lives. We're always being available to everyone because honestly, like, and I'm speaking for myself. So if this resonates, because Justin, you and I have had this conversation before, but that was my identity. That's been my identity. That's all I was, is being needed by other people helped me feel fulfilled, or so I thought. And so I think so often, so many of us, so many doctors, like they don't say no, they don't have boundaries, they don't have a personal life. Team members are the same way. Office managers just give and give and give and give and give of their souls. And I think so often, like, it's because, and speaking for myself, I'm sure there are other reasons, but my identity hung on that. And I felt if I wasn't needed or bombarded by all these people, I had no value. So Justin, you're very opposite of that. You've been able to figure out this boundary. So how, like, that's how you got here. So what are some of the practical tips that you do? Because I mean, you just told us your schedule. You work 3 days and you rotate it to where it's a 2-day weekend or a 6-day weekend. I mean, no big deal there. Like what are some of the things you do to have that balance in your life?
Well, so I have a very hard time taking anything to my house. An incredibly hard time. In fact, I almost refuse to take anything. And I will, in all honesty, probably I leave tasks even unfinished when I know that emotionally I'm just all done and I want to get out of there. And I can work hard enough throughout the day when I come back to work. So in essence, I don't take work home. I take nothing home unless there's something fun I want to do, and then fine, I'll take that home. And so that's a huge one for me, is that I'm not toying away on office stuff or doing all sorts of stuff when I'm at my house or when I'm in my free time. I try to restrict it to the hours that I have set for myself, basically. So even when I'm in the office, and I'm still figuring out what my 3D schedule kind of looks like. I'm only a month into it now, actually. Just my associate just started, and so we're still I'm figuring out the ebb and flow of everything, of this new schedule. So far it's been awesome, but
I like
it. But I've been setting admin time. I'm sorry, all right, I'm going to do 4 hours of work on the office this morning, or, I'm going to do this. And then when I'm finished, and the problem is with me, I used to have a very hard time leaving tasks kind of uncompleted. I would just work. When I used to build homes, I remember I'd be like tiling a floor at 2 a.m. Even though I could have easily done it the next day, but I just wanted to get it finished. Like that one night, I wanted to see this task completed. So it's been a lot of struggle for me, but I just make sure, I'm like, you know what? I will finish it tomorrow. The world will keep revolving and people will not be angry at me. It is okay. And that goes for family, and it goes for everybody. Yeah, sorry.
Totally. No, you're good. I wanted to chime in on this because I don't want you to give all your stats. I don't want to put you on the spot for that, but I also want people to know Justin runs a very tight ship of a practice. So because sometimes I know I could be listening to this and be like, okay, great. Like he's got that lifestyle, but he's not producing what I'm producing. His overhead's not that, he's probably got these really high bills because he's only working 3 days in an office. Right. But Justin, your stats are impressive. Like Justin runs a very, very profitable practice. We're talking multiples up there and running below a 50% overhead. So
I have a few skew months with the build out where things were not actually appropriated correctly, but on average running about 45% this year, which has been fantastic.
That is fantastic.
And with Dr. Brenton and with my new associate, I plan for it to go down. So yeah.
Totally. So like, that's what I wanted you guys to think. Like Justin's not running some hodgepodge practice where he's doing like $50,000 a month at a 65% overhead. We're talking he's over $200,000 a month. He's got other pieces in there. He's got this strong overhead that's in check. So he runs a very, very, very successful practice. Like I said, I'm not going to tell you, Justin is in different zones, But I wanted people to realize like you don't have to be stressful and crazy and out of control and be very successful. So I love that you said like you're not taking this home and you're running this very profitable practice. You did a build out with all of it and you're not taking it home with you. So I think that that's a really wise point. But I wanted people to know that they don't just check out and say like, well, I'm sure his practice isn't as big as mine or my practice is different. You run a really, really successful practice.
Right. And we've grown. Yeah. Like I said, we started doing, what was it? My first year, 455, I think that was the year where I purchased my office. And that was the doctor. That was his final year as he was
crazy
trending upward.
Well, at least it was trending upward. I'd hate for it to be trending downward. But okay. All right. So tip number 1, don't take it home with you. Like find ways. And also I love that you said, give yourself freedom to when you're done working on it, like just be done. Like I think I muscle through so often and I'm actually not productive or produce my best work because I'm just pushing through and it's absolutely miserable.
That's another huge portion also. And I can, again, kind of relate that even back to construction and tiling. I'm sure my tile jobs are total dog crap after 2 a.m., right? But I was like, no, I'm getting it all done. Especially when if I have something I'm working on, some sort of paperwork, something or some sort of financial project I'm trying to work out in my mind. I really enjoy sleeping on stuff and then coming back now and finishing it. And you're right. I feel like I can finish up in half the time if I just be like, I am done. I want a beer. I'm going to leave. And then I come back tomorrow and I'm like, all right, now I need to hammer it out.
Mm-hmm. So that's, you also mentioned you have admin time in there as well, which I think is super beneficial because so often we flood our schedules with all the busy work and we don't ever take time for that important. So I love that you also mentioned that.
And so, and I will say when I am working my posh 3 days a week, I am probably at the office for probably 10 to 11 hours ish, I would say on average. And then at nighttime, I'm a lot of times having meetings with staff or whatever, but I do my meetings like we have, my associate and I have a weekly calibration meeting where we go out to eat and we drink beers and we have a blast. And so like, I'll leave my house at, 7:15 and I get home at 9:30, right? So It's not like I'm just leaving and doing nothing at all. But I do still try to make things fun also. And, we do monthly now hygiene calibration meetings where, I take everyone out to eat, the 2 doctors and my Jess, and we just sit and talk and we just spend time. And we'll talk business for probably 3/4 of the time. But still, I try to, if I need to have meetings or in some way, like when I do reviews for staff, I do not spend an afternoon and say, okay, I want everyone here for a half hour. And we just rotate through. I say, all right, you're on Wednesday, you pick lunch, I'll take you out and then we'll talk. So I try to include fun things, and I just like to eat and drink. So
I was going to say, can you guys tell what his love language is right there?
Yes,
Going out to eat for all these meetings, but that's fine. You found what you like to do. So I'm super curious though, like how do you say no? Because when people are like, but Justin, that doesn't work with my schedule. So can you just come in at this time? Or, hey, could you just work on this when you go home? You're really good at saying no. Was that a skill you developed? Is it just like, I just don't do it? How did you get there?
That was honestly a skill I developed. That was a skill, post my divorce, actually. Used to be married, went through a divorce. It was super tough on me. And, I did not know how to say no in the slightest in my marriage. And so, afterwards, going with therapy and stuff, that was a big thing that I had to work on with him was you need to stand up for yourself and be like, you know what? I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think I want to do this. So no, I will not. I mean, those were very hard sentences for me to say. And then I had this, I'm blessed with a ridiculous father that even though he's a psychiatrist, he had no clue that, yes, he would teach other people about boundaries. And then he would just push me just beyond sanity all the time. I mean, I've called you, Kiera, or sent you text that he sent me. I'm infuriated, oh my God, like, this is so manipulative. Like, how can someone this smart not see how manipulative and terrible this is? And so I actually, with my counselor, we just started learning that, he kind of framed it as, man, you have a great gift in that you get to practice your boundaries like every day with your parents. And so it honestly stemmed from that, like as simple as a freaking 35-year-old man that I started to learn how to have boundaries with my father, and that really transferred into everything in my life. So then saying no to stuff is like, it's not personal. Just don't take it personally. But this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to be unapologetic about it. So
I love that. I love that you said you're unapologetic. because I think so often we're like, well, no, that doesn't work for me. I'm so sorry. But why, when that's the life you want to live? And I will say, because Justin, you take a strong stance in that. You actually give space for people around you to be the same way. I know when I talk to you, if something doesn't jive in my world that you want to recommend, I can be like, Justin, like, no, that doesn't work for me. Or I can be absolutely authentic with you.
That's a terrible idea. No.
I'd venture to guess, I know your team really well. But I think also, in being this type of a leader, you give space for your team to be the same way, to be authentic, to say, hey, Justin, I don't think that's a good idea. Or, you asked me to do this and that doesn't work for me. Or like, absolutely, we can do this, because I think you've created that space around you that people feel that they can be that same way around you. At least I know I'm that way, and I've seen it in your team as well.
Yeah. And when I hire my people, in that first, of course, like everyone, we do this 90-day probation, but I'm very clear on, all right, this is as much of a trial for me as it is for you. And I want you to make sure that you want to be here. So when we have our 1 month meeting, our 2 month meeting, and our 3 month meeting to see how things are, I need you to be vocal about what you're struggling with, what isn't working out. What can we change to help you? What are you not figuring out? And also I say, we each have the freedom to say, hey, you know what? This is not the right fit for me. I think I'm going to leave. And we can't be mad at each other. So that's like the conversation I have the first day with any staff member I have. So I hope that opens up the door of just like, let's chat, let's be open.
Well, and by you doing that, I think that right there, like, that's because I was going to say, okay, Justin, what would you recommend for people struggling with boundaries? Like, what would be the first thing to do? But I think that that's actually a really good tip of just starting to be authentic and saying things at the get-go of, I want you to be honest with me. And then I think proving that you're that way too. So I will ask, what would you say? Hypothetical, you've got a friend named Kiera who struggles with boundaries, says yes to everyone because her identity hangs on this, or she just thinks that if she says no, everyone's going to hate her, and there's no way she could ever tell people no, even though, like, inside she just wants to go home at a certain time. She loves her job or loves the work that I do. What would you say to that person of how to start this? Because I truly... like, I'm asking honestly for myself. We can relay it to everybody else.
No, but for me, for a friend, yeah.
For a friend.
The easiest thing to do is practice.
Okay.
Just practice.
So how do I practice?
So this is an easy one, I think, and I'm just making this up on the fly. But as I'm thinking about this,
I'm
I did this
for
on
a
my
friend
own.
Anyway, it's fine.
Right. Yeah. And so it doesn't even matter. It's fine. So what I started doing was. We all have these automatic responses, right? And it's so weird that I once saw this saying, if I can remember how it goes. I don't know. Edit this out. I can't remember how it is.
Edit this out. It's fine. It was a great quote.
Yeah, editor, take this out.
Take it out.
No, it was something. It was, Oh man. Yeah, screw it. Who cares? Forget about it. So what I started doing was I started practicing with random strangers actually. And again, like I said, I had this lovely practice where I would just be like, when someone said something I got upset about, instead of being like, oh yeah, sure. Okay, no problem. Yep. I mean, I understand, I'd be like, that's not right. Like, no, you're incorrect. Like, I just started basically standing up for myself. And I think having boundaries really means standing up for yourself. So
Sure.
no more autopilot. If someone asks like, hey, how are you? And you're like, oh, good, thanks. Feel like, well, I mean, I'm pretty good. I'm doing good enough, and then just see kind of what your response is like, and you'll understand that number one, people enjoy if you're actually real with them and authentic with them. It will surprise them. But doing that even with your staff, just no more automatic responses. Like, actually be conscious and say what you feel, and then. I'm trying to think of good other examples that would actually
like that. I like that a lot because I'll plug a quote for you. I'll plug a quote for you because I heard a quote, and I've said it a few times on the podcast, that practice doesn't make perfect. Practice makes permanent. And so when you say those auto responses, it's as if I've just been practicing it my whole life. So it's my automatic permanent response, but it doesn't have to stay permanent. We can change that, but really
definitely undo those things for sure.
For sure. Because like you said, it's just an auto response. How are you? I'm good. But like, I'm having the worst day. Last night, somebody asked me, hey, Kiera, how are you? And I was like, I'm good. Well, that person responded like, I'm feeling, her response to me, I remember she said, well, I feel calm. I feel at ease. I feel content. And I remember as soon as she said that to me, I felt like it opened up a whole different world for me. And I wrote back and I was like, man, that sounds great. I actually feel freaking ticked off, exhausted, annoyed. I'm ready to cry my eyes out and I can't get home tonight. And I'm like, but yet a text before that, I said, I'm good. And that wasn't really how I was feeling. And as soon as she was authentic with me, it opened up the floodgate of how I really was feeling. And I realized I wasn't being honest with myself. So if I can't be truthful in that moment and say no or say how I'm feeling, I'm going to be in those auto responses, which are then going to result in automatic no boundaries, because that's what I've been practicing for so long.
Right. Yeah, that's we have a sterile tech in the office, and number one, that is I think the biggest part. And that goes into office communication also. I mean, that's a whole other thing of like, be a real human to your staff, right? And then you're able to talk with them in a more authentic way once they get there. Once you establish this like authentic relationship, then your communication can be so much better. So we have the sterile tech they've been training, and she's a train wreck. She got 2 needle sticks in the first like month and a half.
No.
She's just ridiculous. She moves so fast, and but she's clumsy. And anyway, great hire on my part. No, she's been fantastic. But that's after many conversations of she'll ask me, instead of like, oh hey, I just hope I'm doing all right. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're doing great. Yep, you're fine. It's like, no, you're doing not good at all. Like, you poked yourself twice. Like, this is a really bad thing. I don't want you to get hurt anymore. Let's do this, and this, and then let's change this, please. Like, I care for you. Let's stop this. Instead of, oh yeah, you can get better. Slow down.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So,
well, and I was feeling nervous as you were talking about this team member of their train wreck. And my first thought, honestly, was, well, apparently your team doesn't listen to this podcast, because heaven forbid they hear that. But then as you followed it up you've said that to her, it's not that you're trying to hide anything of like, hey, that is a train wreck. And I'm not just going to sit here and butter you up when we need to have these honest conversations. Because I think in you doing that actually is more efficient, which allows you to have better boundaries, because you're not spending so much time skirting around issues that really need to be discussed.
Exactly. You get right to the point, and you put some passion with it too, instead of just your normal day-to-day interactions that are mundane and they're boring and they don't pack a punch.
Right.
So that's also how I I deal with patients a lot of times too. I'm very customer service oriented. I mean, let's not get me wrong on that. Like, first and foremost, I'm very customer service oriented. But
I will tell you guys, Justin is a movie star in his town. People love Justin. Any person I've ever met that I've introduced to Justin wants to hang around Justin, wants to be around him, wants to be, and I'm not just saying that to make you feel good, because I want people to really know who you are. People love you so much. And people have said, like, I wish I could just like have like Justin's mojo in a little bottle that I carry with me, because I just feel this like calm, this presence, like that, and it's this safe peace. And so your patients love you. I mean, I've been with you in your town. We walk down to a restaurant. Patients are saying hi to you left and right as we walk. People, everybody knows Justin. Every restaurant knows Justin when they come in. Everybody loves to be around you. And
well,
I know
it's the beauty of a tiny town. That's fantastic.
Stop. But I think it's because you are authentic and you give space for other people to be authentic in themselves as well.
Yeah, and I've had many members in the Dental Success Institute come up, and they're like, man, like, you're so chill. Like, how do I get that? Like, I just am not that way. It's this and this. And I mean, I will be very real and say that I definitely struggle with anxiety. And I'm sure so much of that comes, again, from my just upbringing, crazy religious parents, all this other lovely stuff I was born with. But I run at like maximum anxiety level almost all the time. So that is also why I need to have personal boundaries, is because I'm basically protecting my mind. I mean, that's pretty much it. So goes to, I have to jog 4 days a week, and I have to meditate 6 days a week at least. And, it's like I have to do all these other things, but those are that's what outwardly everyone sees when they see me, as this calm, chill person who likes exercise and is super nice all the time, Well,
but really, that is what they see.
Well, that is it, but that comes through work, right? And so I spend equally as much time working on my own mind and my personal development as I do on the business. Like, absolutely, I do.
I love that.
So, well, that's
how he does it.
If I don't do it, I'll go insane.
Right.
So
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. Yeah. All right. So I think my takeaways from this have been, one, everybody needs a Justin in their life, because I want to be
really
like
true.
Justin. It is true. I want that zen. I want that calm, and I want those boundaries where I can feel confident saying that. So I really do believe that you become the people that you are like, which is why Justin is truly one of my best friends. When you look at my phone, Justin is in one of the top people that I talk to, because I want to be like him. He's got pieces in his world, which is why I was so excited to put him on the podcast. So I think, one, that's my takeaway of making sure that the type of life you want to live, be around those people. Justin's super successful, but doesn't run a crazy life, and he has time and space for himself. Like, I want that. So Justin's figured out how to do that. So encompass yourself around people like that. Number two, I think another takeaway is to start practicing saying no. So you have those boundaries, which ties to number three of being authentic and genuine.
Right. Those are absolutely hand in hand. Those are absolutely hand in hand. Saying no and being authentic is like, those are the same thing in my book. It's fantastic.
Which I love that you just combine that, because saying no is authentic. And that, I'm so glad you said that as the final closing pieces with this, because when you can say that, then I'm not feeling like, well, I'm saying no because I've got boundaries. I'm saying no because that's my authentic self, and I'm saying what I really feel.
Yeah, I'm saying no because I don't want to. How about that?
Exactly. They're not separated. So I would challenge all of you out there listening to this of like, check yourself. Are you living the life you want, or the one you think you should? Do you have these boundaries? Because the reality is, you can have whatever life you want. You can have a nutso crazy, always busy like Justin's dad, still successful, but what does success really look like? Or you can be probably even more successful with a less stressed out life, having time for yourself, but both require work. It's just, do you invest all the work into the business, or do you also spend time developing yourself so you can have the life you want? So, Schmidt, You are my fave. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank
What
you.
are your final thoughts? Any final thoughts you want to leave us with?
No, you just closed it real good. I'm
Sign that
totally
treatment
alright with
plan.
that. That's right.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And Dental A Team listeners, thank you. And I'll catch you next time on the Dental A Team podcast. And that wraps it up for another episode of the Dental A Team podcast. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.